Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NIIMBL Project Call 8.1 Concept Stage webinar. During this webinar, we will highlight the requirements and answer your questions on our recently released Project Call 8.1. This webinar will focus on the concept stage of the process. Today's presenter is Sandeep Kadia, NIIMBL's Project Call Program Lead and Senior Technology Fellow. Also on the line are NIIMBL's Associate Institute Director, Chris Roberts, and Workforce Director, John Balchunas. A few announcements before we get started. All attendees will be muted throughout the entire webinar. If you would like to ask a question, please type it into the chat and address it to all panelists. The WebEx interface varies, but for most, the chat should be located in the bottom right corner of your screen. We'll leave time at the end to answer questions. This webinar is being recorded. You'll be able to find the webinar recording shortly after the conclusion of today's webinar on the Project Call 8.1 webpage. You can see the URL noted on this slide, but for convenience, you can simply visit niimble.org and find the link to the 8.1 page on the homepage banner. With those announcements complete, I'm happy to turn it over to Sandeep.
Thanks, Stan. Welcome, everyone. This is about the concept phase webinar for the NIIMBL Project Call 8.1. The mission of NIIMBL is to accelerate biopharmaceutical manufacturing innovation and support the development of standards that enable more efficient and rapid manufacturing capabilities, and also to educate and train a world-leading biomanufacturing workforce. So this Project Call 8.1 seeks proposals addressing technology development 8.1T, global health 8.1G, and workforce development 8.1W priority areas identified by the industry members in consultation with the federal stakeholders. This webinar provides a summary of stage 1 of the process. Full details can be found in the RFP posted on the site. You can see the link below. The Project Call 8.1 process is a two-stage process, and we're going to talk about the first stage today in detail, which involves release of the RFP, which was done in August 29th. The concept submission stage is the first step, which are due on September 30th. It involves concept paper, 4 pages max, concept slides, 5 slides max, document for the BRL assessment, and this is applicable for technology and global health projects. No budget are required, and a showcase video. The concept reviews involve the concept paper, the slide deck, the showcase video, the BRL documents which are submitted, and also involves participation of the virtual summit. The industry SME reviews the proposals and prioritize based on need. Sorry, can we go back one slide? The next step is the full proposal invitation, which the PIs will receive in early November. And I'll talk about the stage 2 later on, for the invited PIs at that stage. Next slide, please. So the project call, these are details at glance. All proposals must have a minimum 1-to-1 cost share. This includes the partners to NIIMBL funding. Higher cost share ratios are more competitive. All projects are a max of 18 months duration. The maximum NIIMBL funds for T, W, and G are $500,000. The total funding comes from 2 different buckets. For the T and W, PC 8.1, is $4 million. And for the total funding for G, the global health, is $1.7 million. Next slide, please. So I'll go with the priority technology development areas for technology. It's divided into 2 segments. One is the PAT, Process Analytical Technology and Control for Biomanufacturing. It involves things like inline monitoring and multivariate analytics, real-time analytics, advanced sensors. And for manufacturing platforms for biopharmaceutical products involves robust analytical tools, expression system for viral vectors, solid growth factors, delivery vehicles, automated RNA and DNA extraction devices, custom bioreactors, and efficient cell washing and concentration technologies. I will turn over this to John Balchunas, our Workforce Director, for walking us through the workforce development areas.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Sandeep. So workforce development topic areas, they're all variations of a theme. So, I mean, if you look at our project portfolio, I think our overall investment over time focuses both on increasing awareness and participation in careers, as well as education, training, curriculum development, that sort of thing. We're focused very narrowly this time on increasing awareness and participation and access to biopharma manufacturing careers. And so the topic areas are all kind of variations on that theme, including increasing knowledge and interest in biopharma manufacturing careers, increasing participation and enrollment in education and training programs, which has been a key challenge within the ecosystem, internship and immersion experiences, and as well as innovative talent pipeline partnerships. And the details are all in the RFP.
Okay, I invite basically Chris Roberts to go with the topic areas for global health.
Apologies, I was double muted. So the Global Health Fund for Project Call 8.1G, as you can read, aims to develop cost-effective solutions for mRNA vaccine manufacturing. This is supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. For this particular RFP, we focus on mRNA LNP alternatives, as well as lowering the cost of goods for mRNA vaccine manufacturing. And you can refer to the RFP itself for more details on that. Back over to you, Sandeep.
Thank you, Chris. So FAQs will be available at the Project Call website. Please send questions to the projectcall@nimble.org email address. Next slide, please. So I just want to go over the high-level submission requirements. All concepts are due September 30th, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Just a reminder. Concept proposers or submitters must be an individual from a NIIMBL member organization or a federal employee. No teaming is required at this stage, but we encourage networking within NIIMBL and recruiting new members to NIIMBL. Please ensure, and this is a request to all PIs and submitters, please ensure you can log into the PyStar a week ahead of deadline. We have received issues in the past where people weren't able to access PyStar, so this will enable you to get into the PyStar and submit any issues that you see and email projectcall@nimble.org email. The full proposal, I just want to go over very high level requirements for those. Lead organization and all partners of the proposal team must be a NIIMBL member at that time or a federal employee. Full proposal teams must include at least 2 organizations. This is exception for the Global Health Fund. Tier 3 members, or what we refer to SMMs, small to medium manufacturers, participation is expected for technology development, encouraged for Global Health Fund, or justification must be provided in case they do not include the Tier 3 member. Tier 3 member is, however, not required for workforce development projects. Budget and cost share. No cost share or budget information is required by NIIMBL at the concept stage. Full budget and cost share details are required at the full proposal stage. Technology and workforce projects should use NIIMBL templates. Global health projects should use the BMGF templates provided. So a short summary of the concept submission requirements. Again, September 30th is the due date, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So for concept paper, single space, 11-point Arial font or larger, maximum 4 pages, not including the reference, upload as a PDF. For the slide deck, a max of 5 slides with the NIIMBL provided templates, upload as PowerPoint, PPT, or PPTX, and mark NIIMBL confidential. Concept stage, BRL appendix, and this is only for technology development and global health fund submission projects, not needed for the workforce projects. Showcase video, this is a new thing. We are strongly encouraging the PIs to record a 90-second lightning deck style video describing their concepts, which are in 90 seconds long, 500 megs max, and MP4 format. Just a caution here, non-compliant concepts will not be considered further. Again, if you have any questions, please email projectcalls@nimble.org. Next slide, please. So I just want to go over some of the high levels for the NIIMBL biomanufacturing readiness level, and this is where we found some of the challenges that people may have. So this is applicable to PC 8.1 T and G. So BRL, or biomanufacturing readiness level, is a combination of readiness of the technology at the concept phase and the ability to use in manufacturing setting at the full proposal stage, right? So this is where you will get together with your partners and you propose at the full proposal stage when invited to complete the BRL document. At the concept stage is basically just understanding readiness of the technology. It serves the two purposes for the assessment. For determining the BRL, it needs to be between BRL 4 to 7 to be considered for NIIMBL project call 8.1. Ensure that proposed work contributes to advancing the technology at a higher BRL. Questions span a wide range of activities needed to develop the technology, and authors are encouraged to involve knowledgeable partners in this process. This can also aid in partner selection. BRL will be a key factor assessed by NIIMBL for both concept and full proposal evaluation. Required to use NIIMBL templates at the RFP website for submissions. Next slide, please. So the concept evaluation stage, NIIMBL involves large industry members and federal stakeholders. They will evaluate confidentiality, evaluate all your proposal concepts, consider the total amount of funding available for PC, and the BRL as applicable. This may include sharing the submitted concept files with reviewers and invitation to a virtual summit to provide an opportunity for discussion. Ad hoc conversation with the PI. So sometimes you may get a request and they will mention in the email that they're reaching out to you because of the PC 8.1. The concept evaluation criteria are the concept ability to address the topic problem statements and relevant industry needs, demonstration of awareness of existing solutions, sorry, one slide back, and the concept ability to provide a clear value proposition for the project team and the broader NIIMBL community for biomanufacturing industry. Next slide, please. So showcase video. As part of the submission process, the PI is strongly encouraged to submit a 90-second, 500 meg video recording that presents a very high-level conceptual overview of their proposed project. This video should be similar to an elevator pitch or lightning talk, as in NIIMBL national meetings. It will serve as a supplemental information for the main submission documents and will be reviewed by large industry members, SMEs, during their decision-making process. Please ensure that the content of the video is non-confidential, designed to clearly convey the core concepts and the vision of your proposals. For assistance in creating a video, we have provided the link on how to create a video for the first-time users for a simple technique to record the presentation. While optional, this approach provides PI an additional way to engage the large industry members, enhance the impact and the clarity of their research ideas. Virtual Summit will be hosted by NIIMBL, designed to foster an enhancement and enhance interactions between the PIs and the key stakeholders from large industry and federal stakeholders. Feedback from the prior RFP indicated the Virtual Summit provides a flexible mechanism to engage virtually with large industry partners and aim to foster the collaboration and in-depth discussion for the concept. As a PI, you will be invited to participate in the scheduled 2-hour office breakout session type dedicated to your concept during the virtual summit, and we'll reach out to you. These sessions are designed to facilitate one-on-one interactions with the large company members or federal stakeholders, allowing you to present your concept and receive expert feedback. So again, project call 8.1 notification, stage 1 will end at the invitation to full proposal stage. Reminder, concept due dates are September 30th, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Reminder of the required documentations, the video requirements, and the information around the concept reviews on how that proposes. And we'll reach out in early November for the acceptance or declination emails for those PIs at the concept stage. Again, please enter your any questions through chat and or email projectcall.nimble.org email address. And
Excellent. Thank you, Sandeep. We do have some questions already in the chat. As Sandeep mentioned, to chat in a question, you want to hit the chat button. For most, that's in the bottom right-hand corner, and you address that question to all panelists. First question is related to the priority topic areas. Are only projects that directly align with the priority topic areas allowed, or if there's another idea that's not aligned with those areas, are those ideas welcome as well?
Yeah, currently the way the project ideas come along is from the requirement from large industry members and the federal stakeholders, and that's represented in the RFP. So the only priority topic areas that are mentioned in the RFP will be considered for the PC 8.1.
Excellent. There's a question about membership and eligibility. My university is currently not a member of NIIMBL. Can I submit a proposal? And if not, how can I become a member? Do I become a member individually, or should I ask my organization to join NIIMBL?
I would advise you to send us an email contact information, and our business development director, Chris Yoakum, will reach out to your organization on becoming a member for NIIMBL, but only a NIIMBL member can submit the concept submission stage.
Can I add one thing to that?
Yes, please.
If you may be the lead with the idea, but if you have a partner who is a NIIMBL member, they can submit on your behalf, but they would then be identifying themselves as a partner on the concept, for example, in case that helps.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, that's a good point.
Just to chime in just with one other to answer one other piece of his question, only organizations join NIIMBL. There isn't an individual level membership.
Thank you, John.
Another question, this is related to subawards on a workforce project. Is a subaward to a non-NIIMBL partner allowed for a workforce project?
John?
So I'm going to ask Don to clarify my terminology here by what you mean by subaward. So we have had numerous workforce projects that we funded that there have been vendors on the team, or not on the team, that are basically providing a service. And so, basically that is allowed, but I don't know if that's considered a subaward or not. But yes, you can pay for vendors to perform a very prescribed scope of work, but they're not considered part of the project team. That's more of a transaction.
That's correct, John. NIIMBL does not allow second-tier subcontracts, but we do have multi-party projects. So your team maybe is actually a project partner and not a subaward if they're doing programmatic substantive work. So a determination has to be made if they're a vendor or a subcontract. And we can help with that if you wanted to send in a question.
A question regarding tier requirements in relation to workforce projects. Are there specific member tier requirements for the two NIIMBL member partners on a workforce concept and proposal? And then the example, can both partners be from a tier 3 or be a tier 3 organization?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think there's any requirements around tier level.
I'll add to that, that applies across workforce and the technical and the Global Health Fund. The only question, we try and encourage that you have at least a tier 3 member in your team, if that makes sense. But there's nothing saying that you couldn't put together a good team that's based on multiple tier 3 members.
Question regarding BRLs. Where do we find the definitions for the BRL levels to ensure our project falls in the 4 to 7 range?
So if you go to our webpage or our homepage on NIIMBL.org, basically you'll find under Industrial Solution tab, there is a tab called Biomanufacturing Readiness Level, and there's a detailed documentation as well as the web tools. You can evaluate your technology in terms of understanding whether they're in the 4 to 7 range. And there's also a detailed article that's open access that you can access and read more about the BRL.
I'll also add that, apologies, folks, I had a bit of technical difficulties. I missed the first minute or so of the login. It may have already been said, but we will update our frequently asked questions page at the end, and these kinds of questions things that will help to populate that. So we will make sure that there's an easy way to link to the site to find all that information on BRLs.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah.
All right, next question. How many proposals can one PI participate or submit?
There are no limitations in my knowledge that the PIs can submit.
Excellent, thank you. Question here about what a typical team composition looks like. What does a PI team typically look like? Is it 2 PIs and an industry partner? Is there a recommended way that team should be set up?
It's a tricky question. So I think we had all ranges of the team composition, I would say. The minimum requirement, like for Global Health Fund, basically is 1 member is minimum, right? For workforce and technology, we need at least 2 members to be partner, right? Industry obviously partners from their perspective. We have SMM requirements for technology and global health. But again, the tier composition is all over the place, and there's no such requirements from how many folks from different organizations should partner.
I'll offer that the feedback that we've received is that to some extent you want to have an idea of what your scope of work would be, but at the concept stage, you're just getting an idea of what you would like to do, and it might only be your individual lab or small company or whatever it is, and that's where you're trying to find the partnering. At the full proposal stage, where this becomes more complicated, is that you may have a scope of work in mind, but you have to get the cost share from the other partners in order to match it, so that you don't just look at the total budget maximum allowed and think, what can I squeeze into that maximum amount of money? Think in terms of what makes sense in terms of the scope of work, and you have the right partners. And then if that means you don't need that maximum budget that would be allowable, that's fine. Make it be driven by the scope of work and who you have on board to partner and get that done. Sort of that coming from, I do have an academic background as well. Don't just try and squeeze in as much as you can to get all the money. That's not the right approach here.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
Great. Question here regarding, or a confirmation of the funding amounts. Is the 500,000 max per concept, or is it the total you plan to award for workforce this time around?
So $500,000 is the maximum per concept per proposal for T, W, and G all across the board. And the total amount of funding for T and W, because they're spread in 2 different buckets, is $4 million max. We accumulate that for all the projects that are awarded funded. Potential for funding back in would be in March of next year. And for G, it's $1.7 million cumulative.
Another good question about membership. If a company is a member of another organization that is a NIIMBL member, right, another consortium, as an example, are they also considered members of NIIMBL for the purposes of the submission?
Chris, do you want to take that question?
Yes. I think what you'd best do is email us with your specific details, and we can help with that, because that can come in many different flavors, and the answer would be very different than another. So I'd say email us specifically your particular case, and then we can work with you on that.
Thanks, Chris. When will the invitations to submit a full proposal be sent out?
Those will be in early November, basically.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And will feedback be provided on all concepts?
Yes, what we do is we collect the feedback from our large industry members and the federal stakeholders, and we anonymize the feedbacks and we provide to each PI, whether they accept it or declined.
So thanks, Sandy.
You'll receive the feedback, yes.
Well, with one added nuance is that occasionally there are ones where one does not receive feedback because sometimes people prefer to only give feedback that's positive, and they prefer not to comment if they didn't have interest. And so a lack of feedback is by default an indication that there wasn't significant interest. It's rare, but it happens. Don't want to set unrealistic expectations.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, makes sense.
This is a question about the cost share requirement. Is it a maximum of 500,000 from NIIMBL and matching funds could also be 500,000 or more? Or are the total budgets 500,000, so it would be a maximum of 200,000 from NIIMBL?
Great question. So it's a maximum of $500,000 from NIIMBL and matching 500K minimum from industry partners. More is obviously looked favorably upon, I would say. So if you had, 500 or $1 million or more, basically from the matching partners, that'll be great. Favorably be looked upon. It shows the interest in the project proposal and the concept, certainly. So, the project minimum is like 500 from NIIMBL and 500 from our members in terms of cost share.
I just want to add one thing real quick there. Sam.
Please, John. Yeah.
Just remember that every member of NIIMBL has a different cost share requirement through their membership agreement. And so academics have a different membership requirement to meet than industry members. And so it's laid out in the RFP, so I would read that. And if you have a question about what those cost sharing requirements are for the unique types of members that you anticipate on your project, just send us an email and we'll be able to explain it.
Thank you, Don. Yeah, we certainly encourage you to send us an email for your particular case. That way we can respond to them.
We'll stay in the cost share realm. There's a question about, is cost share cash only or would in-kind count?
So in-kind would certainly count, but I'll let Don elaborate that on more if needed.
Both count.
Yeah.
Staying on that track, can other grant funds, such as funds from NSF, be used for matching funds or cost share?
Defer to Don now for answering these questions.
No, that is not possible to use other federal funding to cost share against another federal award.
Great, thanks, Dawn. This question about partnering. Would NIIMBL help academic PIs with partnering with industry members, or is the virtual meeting, the virtual summit you mentioned, Sandeep, the only chance to network with individuals?
So there are two ways of partnering. Absolutely, please come to the virtual summit. If you submitted the concept proposal, you get an invitation to that. And we are basically inviting all the large industry members as well as the federal stakeholders to that summit. So that's definitely the first point of touch. The second point of touch is basically as you are submitting all these documents, our industry members are reviewing those, right? And they will basically either reach out to you directly one-on-one because you'll have the information there. That's what we send it to them and they have access to those. So they may reach out to you saying, okay, you have submitted the project call 8.1 concept XYZ, and I'm reaching out to you on behalf of that to understand a little bit more. So that's the second point of contact. The third point of contact, again, is the industry members who actually tell us their interest in the relative concepts. And they do provide in terms of how interested they are to basically partner with you or further elaborate this concept at the next stage, if this concept is moved forward to the next step. So we do provide that information back to the PIs during our acceptance or declination emails. So there are three ways that we do help. And if there are more partnership needed, obviously, our portal is a great resource for finding out who the potential right partners are or the companies are who are working in this field of interest. And please reach out to us and we will help you in whatever ways we can to facilitate the partnership.
I just want to put an exclamation point on Sandeep on your mention of the portal, because I think a lot of our members may not even know that's out there. But if you're a NIIMBL member, you have access to the portal. You need to get a login and all that. But once you're in there, you can look up member contact information, find people to reach out to. And so it's a great resource that's seldom utilized or underutilized, I would say.
Thank you, John. Absolutely.
Question, another track here regarding the topic areas. With regard to custom bioreactors, what is the intent with regard to the custom? Is it limited to T cells?
Yeah, I think the best way to answer that, I think the details basically are written down in the RFP. And as these are open project call ideas, right? We are looking for multi-modalities as well. So if there's one applicable to T cells, that could be applicable to others as well. So I would not hesitate not submitting the ideas, but yes, we don't have like a scope of work laid out in terms of what your request is. These are the requirements that the request that came out from large industry members. So feel free to add, submit your ideas around that concept.
Great, thanks, Sandy. There is a question around membership, and I can actually take this one in terms of finding out more about membership. If you hit NIIMBL.org and hit the membership section, there is a form that you can fill out that will generate a notice to our business development team, and they will be in contact with you. That's probably the best and most efficient way for you to learn more about membership. Another question about the virtual summit. Which week is the virtual summit likely to happen?
So that will happen on October 16th through 18th. It will spread across 3 days. And what we'll do based on the number of concepts that we received, we'll send out the agenda and we'll reach out to the respective PIs in terms of which topic areas are being asked for those particular days. Also, when you submit the concept in the PyStar or Hub, you'll be given the option to select, to choose your days as well. That's how we get to know your availability at the same time.
Thanks, Sandeep. Another question regarding cost share. Do all organizations on a team need to contribute to the cost share?
Don, would you like to take that one on?
Sure. So that would be the best option, but it depends on their role. So to Chris Roberts' earlier point about the scope of work should align with the budget. So those that are doing the work should create a budget, and it includes the cost share side to meet the needs of what they're doing. The quick answer is no, they all don't, but you have to get to that 1-to-1 minimum, and everybody needs to keep in mind their individual member cost share requirement. But again, if you want to reach out with an email and pose a more specific question, we can probably give you a better detailed answer. And emails are to the project calls at NIIMBL.org, which is saying email, but we're not giving you an email address.
A question about membership. If an organization wants to become a member before September 30th, is that a possibility? I guess considering the timeline.
I would say yes. It's a very straightforward membership agreement document. I think it's 2 or 3 pages long. Yeah.
I'll add to that is it has to be executed on behalf of the prospective member. If it takes a little bit longer to get a signature from the NIIMBL side, that's not a problem. It's more, it has to be at least partially executed on your behalf, and that counts.
There are a few other questions here that are a little more specific, and as others have said, we encourage you to email projectcalls@niimble.org with those questions. Another one, however, though, a follow-up to that membership question, how long does it usually take to become a member? Is there any insight on that process?
In terms of timeline, I would say it's relatively quick, actually. Like Chris mentioned, it's basically depends upon the member organization who are signing those and usually going through the lawyers. We have a very standard template, which we send out for our membership agreement. So from our end, it doesn't take that long, but from members' organization, it varies.
Thanks, Sandeep.
If you want a rough order of magnitude, it can take as little as a day. And sometimes it's a question of what it takes to get your own organization to be comfortable with the signature, depending on what type of organization you are. So the best thing to do is get that conversation started as soon as possible.
I could just piggyback on that and say, I think we're all saying the same thing, but the timeline is probably driven more on your end as a prospective member than our end. I think everything on our end is pretty quick to process all that. It's just a matter of getting whoever needs to review it on your end to do whatever they need to do, and that typically depends based on the complexity of the organization.
And one caveat to that, I would add, if it's a foreign entity outside the US, then that adds some delays on our end. We have to get through the NIST approval and other things. So yeah, you'll find out more details when you reach out to that project call at niimble.org email address. and somebody from business development team will reach out to you.
Great, thanks, Sandeep. There are no more questions. I'll give it another second or two in case anyone's typing. And again, projectcalls@niimble.org is the email address where you can send your questions if something comes up later. You can also look at the Project Call 8.1 webpage. We'll be posting an FAQ shortly. Another one did just come in just to confirm this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on that page by the end of the week, most likely. All right. If we want to advance to the next slide. So to close today, as I mentioned, the webinar recording, the full RFPs, as well as the templates and guides that were mentioned in this webinar are available on the Project Call 8.1 webpage. There's a long link there, but if you hit NIIMBL.org, you'll see a button right at the top on the banner to take you there. That's the easiest way to get to it. Just to reiterate, the concept submission deadline is September 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern. And any questions you may have, best place to address those is to email projectcalls@niimble.org. Thanks everyone for joining us today.